Alright, on September the 16th of 2014, I returned from New Hampshire, and after a 3-hour drive, I stopped off at Hamilton Park in Waterbury, Connecticut to stretch my legs before returning home. So during my walk, I found a small bone along a trail, and it did not appear to be an animal bone, so I took it with me to identify. It seemed to be the same size as a chicken leg bone. So I stopped off at the store, bought a package of chicken legs, and then I returned home where I boiled the meat off the bone, cut the tendon off, and found that it was not the same. I then looked on the internet for photographs of raccoon and skunk bones, and none appeared like the small bone I had found at Hamilton Park. Now I would like to do an update about that humerus bone, concerning something that happened last summer around July of 2015. I was at the house and my mother was visiting, and the subject of my investigations came up, and she asked to see the humerus bone. She then used her cell phone to do a search for raccoon bones on Google Images, and the first picture that came up was marked raccoon bones, and it was a photograph of a raccoon skull with a series of bones arranged around it in a collage-like pattern. And included in this assortment of bones were 2 bones that looked identical to the bone that I had found at Hamilton Park in Waterbury, Connecticut. So my mother said, "See, you found a raccoon bone there, like the same ones shown here." I said, "Okay, well then find a photograph of a complete raccoon skeleton that shows where these bones are in a raccoon." So she looked at the other photographs that came up, and then she did a separate search for raccoon skeletons. But nothing came up except pictures of raccoons out in the wild, and one hand-drawn, artistic image of a raccoon skeleton, for example. So in July of 2015, according to Google Images, nobody had bothered to upload any scientific photographs concerning raccoon skeletons in the history of the internet. So after spending a half hour trying to find better photographs or diagrams of raccoon skeletons and getting nothing but these crazy results, my mother began to get very nervous and angry. I think she sensed that something was not right, but she is the type of person that will strive to find some rational answer. So instead of upsetting her more, I had her turn off the internet, and I changed the subject entirely. However, all through that, I could obviously see who is in control of the internet search engines. The military controls Google and can alter the search results at will. And that day, we couldn't even find a photograph of a raccoon skeleton on the internet. So you have to be smart about noticing when the military is playing games designed only to instill doubt and cause mayhem. So I decided that there was only one way to set the record straight about the humerus bone I found. And that was to take the next dead raccoon I saw lying on the side of the road back to the house, remove its front and back legs, and then compare the two with the humerus bone that I found at Hamilton Park in Waterbury, Connecticut. So a couple months later, at the end of September of 2015, I found a large, full-grown raccoon that had been hit by a car lying on the side of the road. So I got out and I took it back with me. The thing stunk, but I cut off one of its front legs and one of its back legs, and then I buried the rest of the raccoon. And to prove that I did this, here's a short video of me pulling the skin off of one of its legs. Then I boiled the 2 legs, and I cleaned off the bones, and this is what I found. Now these 2 are the bones on the animal's hind leg. The bone up here, I had to saw off the animal's rib cage, so I just have half of it. Yet as you can see, it has a very unique shape, shaped like a star almost. So it is definitely not like the human bone in question. and that bone connects down to the animal's hind leg. Which is also nothing like the humerus bone in question. So raccoons have more developed forearms than many animals that walk on four legs. And raccoons are known to stand up on its hind legs and are known to use their front paws to open garbage cans and get into things. So their front legs are more developed than a skunk or a dog or a fox, for example. The raccoon's front legs, or the arms, appear to be the most similar to the human bone in question. So this is the raccoon's shoulder blade, and it connects to what I am just going to call the raccoon's humerus bone. And the raccoon's humerus bone connects to these two bones that are the animal's forearm. And these two connect to its paw. So this raccoon's humerus bone is the most similar to the child's humerus bone. Only the raccoon's humerus is a lot smaller, and as you can see, measures 2 3/4 inches. While the child's humerus bone is 4 1/4 inches long, so it is a lot larger. And also the ball joint, let's just call it, that connects to the child's rib cage is more rounded and developed than a raccoon's shoulder. So after comparing the two together, it is very obvious to see the difference. However, two humerus bones, appearing exactly the same as this, were mixed in with raccoon bones in a collage-like pattern and displayed on Google Images in July of 2015. So the establishment is very disturbed indeed and will do anything possible to confuse the truth. So oftentimes it is very difficult to tell the difference when comparing bones by just using photographs, because you cannot turn the bone around or examine it from different angles. So be warned about anyone who may attempt to confuse you in this manner. If any of you are not familiar with Hamilton Park, I made a video called Hamilton Park Discovery in October of 2014, where I described finding this child's humerus bone. The only note about that video is that I made an error and said that the humerus bone appeared broken and healed incorrectly. Yet this is the type of mistakes that you make by only looking at photographs of bones and not having access to actual models of the human skeleton. Then I returned to Hamilton Park and did a more thorough search of the area in June of 2015. And that video is called Hamilton Park. And there are 3 parts. And there are a lot of suspicious things in that video. So if interested, please look at those 4 videos for further details on Hamilton Park in Waterbury, Connecticut.